So today we're carrying on our theme around kingdom people finding our vocation, and this idea really that God has a big purpose himself and calls us to play our part within it. So that's how we've been trying to fit things together this term and thinking about that. So I was asked to speak about chaplaincy. I've been chaplain at one of the local schools for the last 10 years. I think the thing I probably most like about chaplaincy is that when I've got a joke, I can tell it 1,000 times, but to 1,000 different people, rather than to Susanna for 1,000 times. And she's like, I've heard that one when I was married to you 20 years ago. So, I'll tell you my latest joke then. Do you want to hear it? It's a good joke. What did they give the man who invented the knock-knock jokes? The Nobel Prize. Come on, Nobel. Nobel. No one gets it. And then I go on to the next child in the hope that someone might get the joke, one by one. And 1 in 1,000 might get the joke, so it's worth keeping going. Generally, they just say other things. So, I did have one student came up to me this week. I said, sir, I don't want to be rude, but, because they call me sir, I told you that before. I don't want to be rude, but what exactly do you do in this school? Because they've worked out, because I've been there since September, they've plucked up the courage. In fact, this girl had she'd got a detention, and it wasn't her fault, and that's not the first time it's happened in school. I find it's never the child's fault when you listen to them and hear their reasoning. Anyway, fair enough, I listened to this girl, Holly, and it wasn't her fault. It wasn't her fault. It was, the supply teacher, and even he admitted it wasn't her fault. And he even knew it wasn't his fault that she got detention. So I managed to wriggle her off the detention list. So she likes me now. She came up to me and said, I don't want to be rude, but what do you do? So I said, I'm chaplain. And she's like, and then she didn't say a lot. She's like, what's that then? So I said, well, I got one joke that I tell everyone. So I said, what I'm going to do is try and explain to you what being a chaplain is. Because for the school kids, I'm unusual because I'm not a teacher, I'm not teaching anything. I do a lot of assemblies and things like that, but generally they don't see me in the classroom like everyone else I see in school. The same is true of chaplains in hospitals. They're going around, but they never perform surgery, do they? They never clear a bedpan and things like that. So they have a role to play, but it's not the normal role that you'd expect within that workplace. So we're going to think about this as number 3 here, one of our divine calls, part of God's purpose for our life, part of us bringing a spiritual life into organisations is what chaplaincy is all about. It's about bringing the humanness, really, of an organisation that can so often dehumanise a life. So a lot of those organisations, because of the busyness, because of the timetable, the structure, the patient list, whatever it is, they can become quite dehumanising places. Would you agree? Because there's not time to sit and think about what's just happened because there's another thing happening the next minute. So I'm going to try and explain a bit about chaplaincy, and then Nikki's going to fill in the gaps next week. So today I'm just going to speak about the Good Samaritan, and then that'll be it. Oh no, that's your topic, sorry. So I thought the best place to start was with Jesus. Agreed? So God has a mission and a plan, and his mission, he loves the world, he loves every single one of us. That's what's been coming through in these words tonight. He cares about us when we're disappointed, when we're brokenhearted, when we feel lost. He cares about us when we feel captive. And so he so loved the world that he sent Jesus. And Jesus lands in the Gospels in our story. So we've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's the 4 stories. And in Mark chapter 1, they're in a little place called Capernaum. So they went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they immediately told Jesus about her. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. The fever left her, and she began to wait on them. She's a great mother-in-law. That evening, after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, And Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. So I thought, let's start. If we think about the mission of God, the purpose of God, let's look at what Jesus did. This is Act 1, Scene 1, isn't it? Mark's a very dramatic gospel. And here in Capernaum's an unusual place. I'll take you through a few slides in a minute. But Jesus performed many miracles at Capernaum. The whole town turned out. Probably 2,000 or 3,000 people came out to hear what Jesus had to say. And it was a simple thing, wasn't it? He entered the town. He stayed there for a few days. And then he healed people and he spoke to people. He blessed people and they changed. So Capernaum, there's 21 recorded miracles in that town in the Bible. So with these 2,000 people, there are 21 miracles. So the centurion's daughter, the man who comes through the roof, you know that one where they dig away the hole in the roof and lower the man down on ropes to the feet of Jesus. And they're quite proud of it these days. I went to Capernaum last year. I went to Israel. Capernaum, the town of Jesus. Not many towns can boast that, can they? So they're very proud of it. And there's the synagogue that probably Jesus spoke in at that time. So he stayed there. He was known by the people and he healed them, he blessed them, he taught them. And then Jesus, later on in the chapters, later on in his story, then sent out his disciples to the world. So we looked at the mission of Jesus in Capernaum and all that he did there. And then he sent out the 72. So Luke chapter 10 is the key passage for us, the second passage we're going to look at. When it says, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. Go, I'm sending you like lambs among wolves. Do not take a purse or bag or sandals, and do not greet anyone on the road. When you enter a house, first say, peace to this house. If someone who promotes peace is there, your peace will rest on them. If not, it will return to you. Stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Do not move around from house to house. When you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what is offered to you, heal the sick who are there, and tell them the kingdom of God has come near you. So there's this clear mission that evolves, isn't it, from God sending Jesus, Jesus sending his disciples, and then Jesus as well at the end of Matthew says to all of his disciples, go and make other disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father. I saw this quote recently just before we go through that Luke chapter 10 passage, but it picks up the idea that it's not the church that's on a mission, it's God that has a mission. So we need to be reminded of the truth that the church doesn't have a mission. The mission of God has a church. That we play our part in the purposes of God by asking him, what would you like me to do? What's my purpose here? How do I play my part in your great mission, your great plan? It's not that we have to craft a mission from ourselves. So that quote's from Ness, who now leads the Pioneer UK network. So when we're looking at that Luke chapter 10, I started to think about the verbs that are in there, and 2 that are really clear are also in a song. Go tell it on the mountain. Do you remember that old song? You can sing along? No? How's it go? Go tell it on the mountains. I remember singing it, I think, at primary school. But when you look at the verbs, what I've done is just pluck out the verbs from Luke chapter 10. You know when Jesus sent them out, and I think they give us the model for mission. They give us the way in which Jesus sent out his disciples. He did say, go, that we can't just hang around in a huddle, but we've got to go out into the world. We've got to go and meet people and see people and be active and purposeful in doing that. We've got to be intentional in that. That wasn't an option, was it, for us just to wait? He didn't say wait, he said go. And so we're not waiting for Jesus to come back in that sense, but we are waiting, but we're also going into the world to see disciples made. So we pick out some of these verbs. Go, enter, just as Jesus entered Capernaum, to bless people, to stay with people, just as Jesus did and just as he instructed his disciples to. And this is a difference, I think, just hanging on this one for a while, is that years ago, the mission of the church used to be a 1-week thing in the summer or a beach mission somewhere. And I'm not knocking those things, but What they are is you turn up for a week, you make a big noise in some description or another. I've done that a lot. With a band or with a magic man or something like that. You make a big noise, and then you see who you get to meet within that week, and then you chat to them, and then you see who's interested afterwards. That's basically what a mission is, isn't it? But what Jesus said is the model mission is to stay in a place, to be there for a long period of time, not just to be there for a week, but to be present, to be around. And for me as a chaplain, that's been the difference. And I'll illustrate with just one thing. But in this school, I've been their chaplain now for 10 years, for a long time, telling my old jokes to them. But it makes a big difference because, from personal experience, you know, I would have gone in years ago and done the Easter assembly, for example, and I can talk about how Jesus died and rose again and forgave all our sins, and that was the great message of God. I could do that back then. When I do it now, the added difference is some of the staff know that I've stood with them when we've been at a funeral 2 weeks before, and we've been there when we've really thought about death up close and personal. And so they know that when I'm speaking about Easter, as I did to all this crowd a couple of weeks ago, they know that it comes from a sense that I've shared some of their pain, I've shared some of their distress over it all, I've comforted them, they've comforted me in that midst of things. And so the message I give about Easter is completely different, isn't it? It comes with so much more authority because you've stood in the place where they didn't want to stand. The other thing that happens is some people aren't won over in a week, are they? They're not convinced in a week. I had a very nice moment last week. I've had some good moments the last couple of weeks. I'll share a few more, but one of the nice moments I had, I've been doing assemblies on the homelessness work. You know, we did some homeless conferences last year. I did these ones. And I did one in April. We held a big conference that we held together. And all I did in my assembly was just share about the work that we were doing across the city around homelessness. And one of these teachers who I remember 10 years ago when I was first chaplain, she'd come up to me after assembly and said, I don't want to hear any more of that Christian stuff in my school. That's what she said to me. So I was like, okay. And so she was fairly aggressive and negative about what I was bringing in as a chaplain faith. But at the end of this assembly last week, the same woman, 10 years later, I did the assembly, and then I was just quietly getting on to get ready for the next thing. She stood up with all the assembly there, and she said, can I just say, that was the most amazing piece of news about our city and what's happening in our city, and I think we should give a big round of applause. The same woman. So 10 years, but it comes off the back of me chatting to her over years, having little conversations, talking to her, offering to pray for her on different things. It comes off the back of that you've actually stayed in a place. You haven't just bounced off that person in a week. So Jesus said stay. He said eat, which we're going to do later. Tom Wright, in his books, famously said Jesus didn't leave us with a religion. He left us with a meal to share together. But eating breaks down all sorts of boundaries, doesn't it, between people, and crosses cultures and crosses all sorts of divides. As I did this, I thought about the street pastors. If you know the street pastors, if they see a fight about to break up or some aggro, what they do, they go up to the crowd, obviously carefully risk assessing, but they offer fruit pastels. Did you know this already? Is that true? So they offer fruit pastels. Something in your brain says, yeah, but which color is it going to be? Is it going to be black, orange, yellow, green? And your brain stops thinking about the fight it's going to have to the more important task of choosing the right color fruit pastel. Because you don't want to get an orange one if you want a green, do you? These are big decisions for your brain to make. So we eat, and that really is the heart of mission, in a sense, is having meals. That's what Jesus did all the time. He was known, wasn't he, for eating with sinners, mixing with people that he shouldn't have done because he's in their house and he shouldn't be eating with those type of people. But Jesus said this is how we do mission. We eat and we drink with people. We share life with people, and that is what it's all about. And then heal people as well. Offering to pray for healing, to pray for people, to heal people not just physically, But often people are brokenhearted, aren't they? God is close to the brokenhearted. And as we extend, our care and love towards those people, God can meet them and comfort them. So the model of Jesus, you'll be impressed with this. Next slide. Look at that. PowerPoint did it all for me with one click of a button. So the model of Jesus is this: go, enter, bless, stay, eat, drink, heal, and the last one is tell. So there's still go, tell, but there's another whole load of verbs in between. So that we go, we enter, we bless, we stay, we eat, we drink, we heal, we tell. And this is chaplaincy in a sense. We go to a place, we enter it, and then we're not in a rush to move on. People may get fed up with their bad jokes, but we keep going. And then we eat with people, drink with people, and we share life with people. And that works, I think. So I've been 10 years at the academy now. They wouldn't do without me there. I've tried, as you know. But I think, but we can't do both things. This is the challenge. So, because there's always another big mission that needs to be supported, another big event to support. And we used to do those things, but now you have to weigh up, don't you? Because if I'm planning and preparing for a big week, I'm not doing the go in, eat and stay and telling with the 2,500 young people I've been entrusted with in my chaplaincy care and the 200-300 staff that are working in the 3 schools. So I can't do both. We can't do both things, can we? If we commit to one sense of model, unless we're really graced and gifted to do so, we can't do both. So it's a challenge for us because sometimes, we're one of the churches that are not wanting to engage in the big thing because we want to go grassroots in everything. We want to be visiting the clubs regularly. We want to be on the street pastors every Friday, every Saturday. We want to be visiting schools every day. We want to have people serving people who are accessing the food bank every day. We want to be accessing all these different places within our city all week long, all through the week. And so we haven't got the energy and the time left to do the big thing. See what I mean? So it's a challenge. So we've got to be comfortable that that's what we're doing. But here's the only thing I'd say to finish this is when you look at it, we know loads of people because we've adopted this model. And often church people are struggling saying, I don't know how to make friends with people who aren't Christian because all my friends are Christian. But that's because that's what we've turned ourselves into. We've not gone to where we're supposed to go. We've waited. We've not gone, as Jesus said, go. We've waited around and asked people to come to us, and they don't come and say, you're sat on your own, aren't you? But if you go to them, you're there anyway. So, a couple more quick things about this, and I was going to update you on a few things. I think chaplaincy is about this. It's about being with people, not doing to them. It's not about delivering a program of events or so on, but it is about us being with people through the highs and the lows of life. That if you're with people over a time, you will be with them when it's very joyous and happy, won't you? And you will be with them when it's a broken-hearted time of their lives. But you're being with them through the whole time. You're journeying with them. And then we've tried to think creatively, well, how do we meet new people? How do we connect with people that are a million miles away from church, that never give church a second thought, really? How do we do that? And we've got loads of innovative things. So street pastors is one thing, Safe Families for Children is another. Loads of things that are actually about connecting the church with people that needs God's love and kindness in their lives. And then this Wednesday, little plug for our event, is we're bringing everyone together, all these innovative projects, including our waffle stop, which had a great day yesterday. Sam's still around. Great bit of business yesterday by Sam on the waffle stop. We're bringing all these innovative stuff together, Young Life, the schools work that we're doing, Caraway, the work towards older people, Amber, all these different projects we're bringing together to say, this is how we're trying to connect with our world, not in a big event, but in everyday connection with people's lives. So you're welcome to come down to that if you want to just see what it's all about. It's Wednesday afternoon, 4 to 7. The waffle stop will be there if you're feeling peckish. But I think we've committed to this, and you might think, I'm not sure about it. We've committed to this chaplaincy model, to this connection, and we want to grow it. We want to see it grow. We want to see us all empowered. So, I've recently become chaplain to Rose Road, just up the top of Burgess Road, really. And but they're open 24 hours a day because they have care all through the day and night, all through the weekend. And so I've pledged to try and pop in there once a week on the way back through from my way over at Lord's Hill School. But there's loads more opportunities at somewhere like Rose Road if people wanted to be part of a chaplaincy team there, for example, meeting with families that have got disabled children and really working hard to support that child, to see the best for them, and also to care for themselves at the same time, because they're spending all their time caring for a child, but they've got who cares for them? And so we could do more. We could do more if we had the time and the space. Now, I had a very nice thing happen to me. I'll show you this. I know you'll hate it, but Rose Road, I've only been their chaplain 2 months, but they said to me, Paul, we've just been invited to the Mayor's charity dinner last week. And they said, none of us can go. Would you mind going? I was like, well, they said, there is a famous footballer there. I was like, yeah, no, I probably could clear my diary to make. So, over the last couple of weeks, so we had, you saw this photo, Francis Benali, who raised £1 million, was on the top table with the mayor and the mayoress. And on the table with him was me, ridiculously, because Rose Road was the mayor's charity for the year. And also Western Church Youth Project was sat there. There were a lot of other prominent people around the city, all just thinking, how did Paul Woodman get onto the top table? Something's gone wrong. That probably did. And Francis Benali, just quickly, we talked to him years ago. He raised £250,000 once in a week, fundraising for charity, and he was disappointed. Then the next time he went for raising more money, and he raised £660,000 in 2 weeks. So the first time was 3 weeks, second time 2 weeks. He raised £660,000, and he opened up our new primary school for us, didn't he? So he came down to that, and we chatted to him. And I said, that's amazing, £660,000. He goes, Paul, I'm gutted. I wanted to raise $1 million. I can't believe I've failed. And he was really hard on himself. And then, you probably followed the story, haven't you? But this month, he's gone for it again. He did a 1-week challenge where he ran a marathon, swam and cycled, triathlon, Ironman triathlon every day. And he raised £1 million. And he was overjoyed. And it was on the day he topped the balance was on this day when we had the meal together. So he was very buoyant. And again, it was just nice to be able to talk to him and chat with him. So it was a nice blessing. But the final thing, I think, is about us walking with people, not just talking to them. So there's many people that we can walk through life with in our workplaces, through our schools, on the school gate, in our community, our neighborhoods, that we can walk with people rather than just feeling, I've got to tell them the good news about Jesus. I don't have to get just a few sentences out about Jesus and then I've done my job for that person. Like, if we're walking with them, they'll know that Jesus is good news in their lives, won't he? Because we're full of Jesus and we love Jesus and we talk about him all the time. So I've done that story. Last thing then. Oh, I've got one more story and then I'm done. So Nikki and I are going to run a chaplaincy training for anyone who's interested. If you think, I'd like to think about chaplaincy to someone like Rose Road or Bassett Green or some of the schools that we're working in or some of the community, or even we could have a chaplain that is just for Burgess Road that just goes and visits the shopkeepers once a week and just gets to know them and just gets to know people. One of the things you have to do is learn people's names, don't you? So I don't know who's good at that or not. You don't have to do it. You can write them down, I guess, GDPR permitting. But I try and learn like 3 names a day. So I'm always trying to learn new names at school particularly. I've got 2,500 names to learn. So I thought I'm not going to do it all at once. I'm trying to do 3 a day, cement them, and then keep building on them. But it'd be great, wouldn't it? Say if we knew all the names of the shopkeepers up through here, that we could actually just go up and say, hey, how's your business this week? Anything we can pray for? And it's those simple things that we could build up over time. That actually means we're connected with our community. We're not staying indoors. We're going out and meeting people. We're blessing them. We're eating with them. We're drinking with them. Inviting them for a little breakfast here or whatever. There's lots that we can do if we give ourselves to it. So, final story. Then we'll move on. I don't know if I told you about this water cooler, have I? School? I told a few people, I think. There's new water coolers at my school. We used to have, do you remember these at school? The ones where you push the button and you put your head down and the little spiral of water goes into your mouth. Have you had those? Yes, remember that? We had those up until a year ago, and then along came this thing. Quite amazing. So it's a big water dispenser. And it serves ice-cold water. Nice. On tap, whenever you want it. It just comes down straight into your cup. Perfect. So one day, I'm there at school, and this girl comes up to me who's a year 7, so she's 11 years old. But she's the shortest year 7 I've ever seen. So she's tiny, so she's not very big. How many ways can I say it? And she's very upset, and I said, what's the matter? Why are you so upset? And she said, I'm thirsty. I said, well, you could just go to the water dispenser over there. And she said, I can't reach the button, because it's quite high up. The button, if you see, carefully, the button is above the cup. So she could put the cup in, but they couldn't reach the button, which is another bit above. So I said, I could probably come and help you. So I went and I pushed the button. It's a tough job being chaplain, I can tell you. Pushed the button. The water came out, filled the cup of water, and she was very happy. And in fact, ever since then, I'm a new hero. She's like... And I think she's worked out some way of standing on a bucket and getting the water. But it was a simple thing. But it caught me by surprise afterwards, because I remembered the scripture, you know, the one I'm thinking of. Afterwards, when I was just thinking about it later in the day, that said, whoever gives one of these little ones even a cup of cold water because he is a disciple, truly I say to you, he will by no means lose his reward. So I wasn't particularly after a reward, but I thought that's all I've done. I've given the simplest of things. Push the button. For a little one, literally, because I'm a disciple. I'm not there for any other reason. I'm there because I'm a follower of Jesus, trying to bless this school community. So for us, we might feel, well, I don't know if I could do like the big assemblies or big things like that, but all of us can do the simplest of things, can't we? Showing a bit of kindness to the shopkeepers up the road, to the teachers who never get to go to the toilet because they're always running from one lesson to another, or the students that are so stressed out with exams, or the families that are trying to make it work when their child is disabled and they're trying to work out how they do everything. And we know that God is close to the brokenhearted, and he says to us, come and join me. Come and join me in my purpose to reach the brokenhearted, to reach those who are needing my love and kindness. So God has a mission, and the mission of God has a church, and we are the church. Thank you.